Coming up on the NBA Rundown, we're going to talk about whether or not this was the worst All-Star weekend ever in the National Basketball Association. Look, I hate to go so negative at the very beginning of a podcast, but when you think about America's greatest bank robber, that is one Adam Silver, who successfully walked into a bank, handed the teller a note, and then walked out with $76 billion, got into his bulletproof Cadillac SUV, and drove off without a police chase. He also succeeded, quite frankly, in wasting 3 hours of my time on Sunday night, as like a lot of you probably suffered through the NBA All-Star Game. Hey, welcome back to the NBA Rundown. As always, I am Dave DeBaugh. I am actually based here in the Bay Area, and I can confidently tell you that this was indeed one of the worst weekends for an NBA All-Star Game I've seen in person and on the air in quite some time. Now, as you all know, I hate to do like negative podcasts, and I will also cover some of the good things that Adam Silver was actually able to pull off with this year's All-Star Game. We've got all of that. I've got some headlines from some other publications as well that we'll get into in just a bit. But first, I want to begin with some of the negative parts of the weekend. And let's start with the fact that Adam Silver was unable to actually convince Steph Curry in his own backyard to actually compete either in the NBA All-Star Game, or the NBA three-point contest, or in some variation of a NBA shootout. Adam Silver was also unable to actually get Caitlin Clark to actually show up for a NBA-style shootout with Steph Curry, once again, in his own backyard. So we had that didn't happen. Then, of course, we had some players who were supposed to play who didn't play. And then, of course, we had way. In fact, I had a Kevin Hart overload. Now, look, I'm not a Kevin Hart hater. I've seen Kevin Hart in person do stand-up. In fact, last time Kevin Hart was in town in the Bay Area, I went with the wife and we saw him at Chase Center. He put on a good show. I'm not going to say it was the best show I've ever seen from a stand-up comedian, but he did put on a good show. I've seen two handfuls of his movies over the years, and half of them are hits and half of them are misses. But I do not understand why Adam Silver and the folks at the National Basketball Association thought that they had to have Kevin Hart on the air more than the actual basketball players had airtime in the actual All-Star Game. Literally, in 3 hours of the NBA All-Star basketball game, I think we got just under 40 minutes of actual basketball playing time. And you all know that I am right when I say that Kevin Hart had more than 40 minutes of actual airtime during the game. I was talking to a buddy earlier in the day, and I said, hey, look, I at one point I thought I was watching some sort of like Off-Broadway show. That's how bad I thought all of this got. Look, I like Mr. Beast as much as the next person, but giving Mr. Beast essentially 20 minutes of airtime to it was a nice thing when the kid hit the $100,000 shot. All of that, of course, was nice, but do we really need Mr. Beast to actually make an NBA All-Star Game work? Now listen, or actually listen, or choose to not listen if you want. This is the game where you're supposed to have all of the greatest basketball players in the world on the same court at the same time. not actually broken up into 4 separate teams. Now, I disagree with Draymond Green a lot, and I disagree that he gave it a 0 out of 10 when asked what he thought about the NBA All-Star format. And I think that's a little bit too harsh. And I certainly get what Adam Silver was trying to do. And to give Adam Silver some credit, the players, especially Wemby and SGA and Steph and a couple other players, really did play pretty hard throughout the games that they were actually in, which was the intent of all of this. But Charles Barkley, as always, was absolutely spot on when he said, in reference to what Draymond Green said, that the reason this was happening anyways is simply because the players over the last decade had basically just abandoned trying to play hard in these games. Barkley basically was saying this is the players' fault. What's interesting about all of this is you have Adam Silver, the commissioner, who is America's greatest bank robber. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. He absolutely is. Not only did he rob a bank, but he also robbed a lot of you of your time over the past weekend. Look, if I wanted to see comedy bits at last night when the NBA All-Star Game was actually airing, I would have simply flipped over to the SNL 50-year anniversary, which me and my wife actually watched after we sat through 3 hours of the NBA All-Star Game. Most of the time just wondering what the hell is going on here. Why isn't there actual basketball being played? Why do I keep seeing Kevin Hart on the court? Why do I keep seeing Mr. Beast show up? What's up with all the music and entertainment? As great as the music was at the intro, outside of that, I just didn't understand what they were trying to accomplish with this. Look, at the end of the day, if this was a show that ran regularly in Las Vegas and had a standing show like J-Lo used to have or Elvis Presley, then I guess maybe there would have been some redeeming value in mixing in music with actual basketball going on in a 3-hour show. But this was absolutely ridiculous. It was an attempt at something. I'll give them credit for actually trying something different. But in terms of like an overall grade, at best, this was a C-. When you think about what you actually witnessed, when you take a step back and you think about it, you must, like me, feel robbed of not just your time, but also robbed of having the opportunity to see 2 teams with the greatest basketball players in the world on the court. Whether or not they're trying to play or not is indifferent. We were absolutely robbed of all of that this year.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.